Hello and welcome to Live Notes, an introduction to Imperial College's Lunchtime concert series run by the Blyth Centre for Music and Visual Arts. My name is Dr. Bruno Bauer. I'm an evening class lecturer in music at Imperial, and today I'm going to introduce Joseph Spooner and David Owen Norris's performance of works for cello and piano by William Sterndale Bennett, George Walker, and by Owen Norris himself. I'm delighted to be joined by Joseph and David for this video to tell us their thoughts about the programme. Welcome to you both. Thank you very much for joining me. I gather you've both been busy on recording projects during this time as well.
Well, yes. I mean, despite the lockdown, I was thankfully able to record the cello sonata by Ruth Gibbs, who's just had her centenary a couple of months ago, and that's eventually going to come out. But it was put out as part of Composer of the Week, so that was actually quite a privilege because it was the first recording of the sonata, and it's a very terse and rather lyrical piece. And I've also got a number of other English cello sonatas up my sleeve, which I'm hoping to record later this year in the autumn.
How exciting. Excellent. Yeah. David, I gather you've got your own project as well.
Well, we're just coming to the end of what has been a monster project, recording all of Sir Arthur Sullivan's songs and ballads. Wow. And the fourth CD of them is coming out on Chandos this very week, I think.
How exciting.
And it is exciting. They're marvellous stuff, actually. And the ones that aren't on Chandos, you can find films of. We recorded them. Students in the Royal Northern College of Music and I walked along a road which isn't far to Mrs. Gaskell's drawing room. And we recorded some of the more drawing roomy of Sullivan's songs in Mrs. Gaskell's drawing room. And it was entirely appropriate, so much so that we felt constrained to wear period dress. And so if you're interested in those films, you can see them via my own website. Aha! But we should be talking, I know, we're not here to talk about Sir Arthur Sullivan. We're about to talk about his teacher.
Indeed. So that's a very nice link. Thank you very much, David. Into, yes, the Sonata Duo, Opus 32 by Sterndale Bennett, Sullivan's teacher, written in 1852. Sterndale Bennett, a British composer, primarily trained in London at the Royal Academy of Music, and initially making a career in both London and Leipzig, the latter aided by his friendships with Mendelssohn and Schumann. Took up a teaching post at the RAM in 1837, and by the mid-1840s and 1850s was maintaining an extremely busy career, primarily as a teacher and conductor, with only limited time for composition. So this actually is quite interesting for the Sonata Duo, because it comes in this period where we sort of think that Sterndale Bennett actually isn't doing so much composing. David, as someone who's worked on this repertoire, where do you see this piece in Bennett's output?
Oh, well, I think it's very high up. I mean, Bennett's, he didn't write too much at all, it must be said. I mean, one wishes in a way that he'd written a little bit more. There are, I think, 6 piano concertos altogether, so that's nice. And they're very fine piano concertos. That's what endeared him to the public in Leipzig. He went over to Leipzig and he played his own piano concertos, and everybody thought that was amazing. He was a very fine pianist. There is quite a lot of piano music, some of which is a little bit pot-boiling, because, of course, people who teach the piano sometimes need teaching pieces. But if one concentrates on his concert music, then the piano music also is very good. There are 2 piano sonatas. One, the very last piece that he wrote, which is the Jungfrau von Orleans sonata, based on that amazingly popular play of Schiller's. And it has little quotations at the beginning of the movements in English and in German, because, of course, Bennett was very much identified with German culture. And that's a fine piece. And so, too, is the rather Mendelssohnian sonata he wrote at the beginning of his career. And in between is his other sonata, this which very tellingly named the Sonata Duo. It's not called a cello sonata, and it's not called a piano sonata with cello accompaniment. I mean, that was what Beethoven thought he was writing. And I find this, I don't know another piece that is what we would now call a cello sonata, that is called a sonata duo. Do you, Joseph? I mean, it's a wonderful compliment to the oneness of the two performers.
No, absolutely. And it is, I mean, it was David who introduced me to this work, but it is also, it is remarkable. It's a very early English sonata. And this, as David said, the sonata duo title is a real recognition of the equality of the two instruments in the music. And in fact, Sir Arthur Sullivan, a few years later, writes his duo concertante. But so there is just beginning to be a recognition that, you know, a sonata involving cello and piano doesn't have to be an accompanied keyboard sonata or a cello sonata. It is actually simply a sonata for two instruments.
And it's very interesting, if I can just add there, his other sonata-like work, which is also sort of from the middle point of his career, he called not a piano trio, but a chamber trio. It's the same mind at work, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The mind, perhaps, of a conductor.
Yeah, I'm also, I might particularly mention the fact that the movements are also quite unusual. The first movement is an Adagio and an Allegro, but in fact it's more like a tarantella. The Adagio comes back at the end of the first movement, and it was so popular, this first movement, that it was even published separately as a standalone work. The second movement is a minuet, but he calls it a Minuetto caractéristique. And I have had a look, and I think this is the only piece for cello and piano that I can find that is identified as a character piece. Of course, there are plenty of character pieces for cello and piano, but it's the only one explicitly identified as such. It's a beautiful minuet. And the last movement is a rondo. It's almost a standalone piece in its own right.
It's almost Schubertian, isn't it, the rondo theme?
Yes, yes, wonderful stuff.
Gorgeous. Yes, it is a beautiful work, and it's beautiful from the very first moment. That Adagio, that opening Adagio, which, I mean, he might have got that idea from Beethoven, but Beethoven never thought, I mean, it's not a bit Beethoven-ish, but Beethoven never thought of bringing his Adagio back to cap the mood. Did he? I don't think. No.
There are.
I have to say, we need to move on to the other pieces as well. But yeah, this is going to be quite a treat to hear this from both of you, I think. Yeah. So following the Sterndale Bennett, we'll then eventually be crossing the Atlantic as per your title for this performance. But before we do that, we're going to hear David's piece, It Takes Two, a work that I gather, Joseph, you commissioned and was composed in 2019. So, Joseph, what was the reason for the commission for this piece?
Well, it's very simple, really. Two friends of mine got married, and I was asked to perform at the wedding. And I wanted, and you know, you could have played anything really, but I wanted to give them something. And David very kindly agreed to write some music with some cryptography involved. So the initial theme is based on the letters of my two friends' names, which are Bassi and Fede. And that makes a slightly quirky theme. But of course, David does wonderful things with it, and it evolves very much.
All right. Okay. So David, can you tell us a little bit about what you did with those
those notes. So the notes we had, Bassi, I read as B-A-C in the French and Italian sense. So, and I read B therefore as a B flat, as in B-A-C-H. And that gave me a 3-note theme, which was B-A-C, and then Fede is F-E-D-E. So that absolutely is self-evident what that's going to be. And it seemed to me to be a tango. Hence its title, It Takes Two. But it's also, of course, that is a nod to the Sonata Duo, because the Sonata Duo, as its name also implies, takes two. So I'm quite pleased with the appalling circular nature of these references.
Yes, brilliant. That works out so well.
I might just add that although, of course, this was performed at my friend's wedding, this will be the first sort of fully public performance of the work.
How exciting.
I'm looking forward to hearing it for the first
Yes. David hasn't heard it.
All right. Okay. That's going to be great. Excellent. So after that, we'll then move on to finish with the cello sonata by the American composer George Walker. This is composed in 1957. Walker's music came to wider attention following his receipt of the Pulitzer Prize for Music in 1996, the first Black composer to be so honored. But as those dates indicate, the award followed a very lengthy career in music, which included extensive work as a concert pianist and as an organist, as well as composition, and a number of prestigious fellowships and awards. His first published works started appearing in the late 1940s, among them the First String Quartet, with its slow movement that achieved subsequent separate fame in arrangement as the lyric for strings. So with this cello sonata, Joseph, what drew you to this music? What drew you to Walker?
Well, in fact, David and I were invited to play in the Americana Festival at St. John's Smith Square a couple of years ago. And I've had the good fortune to do a fair amount of English music with David, and then also some German stuff related to the English music. And this is the first opportunity that I'd really had to explore American repertoire. And it took a while to find anything I was really persuaded by. There is, of course, a wonderful cello sonata by Samuel Barber, but that's been done an awful lot. And I couldn't find any trace of the George Walker sonata ever having been performed in England. So I think that David and I may have given the first UK performance. And there are other cello sonatas, but it was the right length, and it just turned out to be a really stonking piece of music. Really, really, very, very strong. I might just say that I've heard American cellists talk about this, and they've asked George Walker, what is this about? What is this sonata about? And he refused to be drawn, in the sense that it wasn't about anything. It's entirely unprogrammatic. It's just pure music.
All right. Fascinating. David, how do you find it playing the piano parts for this? What's his writing for piano like? I mean, I'm asking because I gather actually he must have been a fairly formidable pianist in his own right. His performances include things like the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto, which, as we know, is something of a monstrous piece to take on. How do you find it to play?
Well, it is very much the work of a concert pianist, which may have held it back. There's the particular moment where you have to grow an extra hand. I'm not quite sure how he did. I mean, I imagine he played the bass octave and then he did something in the middle while his right hand was, etc., etc. It can't be played simultaneously, however big your hand is. Even if your hand is as big as Rachmaninoff's, it can't be done. And so there are one or two moments like that where one always gets the impression that he's enjoyed laying a trap.
Oh, there are one or two of those for the cello as well. And in fact, there's a passage in the last movement which is marked pizzicato, plucking the strings, and the American cellists I heard being interviewed all said, "Oh, this is unplayable. This can't be done." And of course, the only way around it is that to actually slap the strings and pluck them alternately. So it sounds a little bit like a double bass in a jazz combo for about 2 bars. Is
that in the finale?
Yes.
Yes, you see, it's so interesting, that finale. I mean, it takes me back somehow. This is going to sound as if it dates it, and it's not really dateable music, but in particular, the slow movement is absolutely timeless, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's
really
wonderfully
incredible. But the finale has that indefinable, threatening confidence of those days in America when everybody wore pale suits and films. Do you know what I mean? Perry Mason. I see a young Raymond Burr.
Now that you put it, now that you say it, David, I do see it.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we're in for an absolute treat on this one. Many thanks once again for Joseph and David for joining me. For those watching, I hope you enjoy the performance. Do tune in for the Blyth Centre's other lunchtime concerts. Thank you very much once again to Joseph and to David.
Thank you, Bruno.
Great to see you.
If you just pull it sort of
Right, we're going to lie down now.
Heavens.